The Hierophants got the priestly robes, the worshipful acolytes, and the keys to knowledge, both worldly and spiritual, just laying there at his feet. He even seems to be saying the Boy Scout pledge. Who could be more worthy of our trust, right? But watch out. This isn't wisdom we're seeing, it's pomp and circumstance, ritual, spectacle, dogma, and we all remember what happened to the dogma when it got too close to the karma. This is taken from Miss Chant's Infinite Roads to Wisdom. Sorry, I called out. Coffee break. The woman turned to face me, looking confused. I waved a hand at the white magic five and dime. We're open if you're interested. I just ran down the street to the coffee shop. Can't get my eyes open in the morning without cappuccino, not even my third one. The woman didn't stop looking confused and started looking something else. My third eye. I mean, I could have stammered, like psychics supposedly have, in mysticism and stuff. Sorry, I'm new at occult humor. Instead, I smiled. Hell, I beamed. A confident bastard will get a lot further than a saint with low self-esteem, Biddle used to say. The woman peered past me into the shop. She was 40-ish, heavy-ish, short-ish, owlish, extremely ish all around, as blandly American as a block of Velveeta. Her hands looked strong enough, though, and her arms were long enough to reach across the table. You wouldn't see her type on a wanted poster very often, but that didn't mean anything. I was looking for a victim, an angry one, not a criminal. Is Athena in? The woman said. She seemed sincere, but then again, so did I. I'm afraid not, I said. There's been a change of ownership. I run the five and dime now. Come on in, and I'll make you a cup of tea. Is Red Zinger all right? I've got friends who swear by it, but like I said, cappuccino's the only thing that gets my motor running. This was hustling the mark along talk, but the woman wasn't moving. I got her unstuck the easy way. Did I mention? Returning customers get their first reading free. She followed me inside. Her name was Alice Fisk, she claimed, and she lived in the next county over. She didn't get to Bardacci's much, but the last time she had come into the White Magic Five and Dime on a whim, Athena had been very persuasive, very perceptive, very helpful, very patient. Alice hadn't cleaned out her life savings so Athena could invest in the deal she'd foreseen would make them rich. She hadn't dug out her private papers, including birth certificate and social security card, so Athena could use them to work up a chart that would plot the course of her entire life. All she brought, she told me, was $40 for the special expanded reading Athena had promised her. Oh, I said, I could do those. We didn't have any red zinger next to the microwave and the mini fridge in the office, so I made do. Alice got a tablespoon of Lipton Diet Lemon iced tea mix stirred into boiling hot water. Here you go. I put the mug on the table in the reading room. Thank you. The woman picked up the tea and brought it toward her mouth, then simply blew on it and put it back down. I'd nuked it so long it wouldn't be cool enough to drink for a week. What happened to Athena? She asked. Health issues. Came on very suddenly. Oh, no, I hope she'll be all right. She's stable at the moment. The doctors don't expect her to get any worse. Well, that's something. It is. Now, please shuffle these. I slid a tarot deck across the table and tried to remember Josette Berg's patter at the House of Arcana the day before. While you're doing that, meditate on your question. What is it you would like the cards to tell you? Should I say it out loud? If you wish. Alice closed her eyes as she shuffled. After about 20 seconds, she put the deck down and opened her eyes again. She looked at me expectantly, silently. Great. You don't have to push for details, Biddle used to tell me. Citizens never pass up an opportunity to talk about themselves. Sometimes Biddle was full of shit. I put my hand over the deck and drew it close to me. I had to fight the sudden irrational impulse to palm the top card. That was how I was taught to play. but it was a whole new game I was trying to master now. I started laying out the cards in the pattern I'd seen Josette use, the weather vane. You're not going to use the whatchamacallit? Alice asked. The Celtic cross? No, I said, because I didn't know what the Celtic cross was. I hadn't seen anything about them in the Infinite Roads to Knowing. Then again, I was only on page 98. This is a spread of my own creation, I said. I call it the Phoenix. Looks like an airplane. Exactly. Both move on the winds of chance. Alice looked dubious. I flipped over the first card and found myself looking at a Knight of the Round Table planted giant carrots. Ah, I said, the Seven of Rods. Rods? Well, as it's called in the old text, yes. You might have heard it referred to as by its newer name. I stole a quick squint at the little words printed faintly across the top of the card. Wands. Now, this first card represents your current situation. If we look at it closely, we can plainly see that you're... What, Sir Lancelot? A giant carrot farmer? They both seemed unlikely. On the defensive, I said. The man there, he's building a wall around himself, a fortification. He feels besieged. Alice's eyes went wide and watery. Bingo! I turned over another card. Very interesting. The Seven of Pentacles. On the card, a guy looked like Robin Hood was leaning against a hoe as he looked down at the golden pentagrams growing on the vines like a bunch of satanic watermelons. Here we see what's in your conscious mind. You're contemplating past decisions and endeavors, taking stock of the fruit of your long toil. It looks like you've got a fine crop there, but is it really? Alice gave me an encouraging nod. Like, amazing, right? I must be psychic. I moved on, sticking as close as I could to Josette's gibberishy script. And here we find what's in your subconscious mind. Ho ho! The King of Swords. Now that's something. What kind of something? I didn't know. The picture didn't give me much to work with. Just a dude with a sword on a throne. Maybe the illustrator ran out of ideas after the devil melons. Here we see someone very kingly, I said. He's calm, cool, totally in charge. That's what you like to be, what you aspire to. But you're not sure if you can achieve it. Alice nodded again, more rigorously this time. With the next card, we gaze into the past to see what shaped your life as you know it now. The choice that brought you to your current predicament. And we get Alice said. She put her hands on the table and leaned forward to stare at the card. A band of gold was wrapped around the ring finger of her left hand. A man, I said. One who seemingly comes to you bearing a great gift. But see, he's upside down now. Whatever's in the chalice pours out. The gift is squandered. The promise is broken. The hogwash is blatant. I wasn't risking anything, though. If the woman had a happy marriage, she'd think of some other man who let her down. There's always one, if not dozens. And if she didn't have a happy marriage? Tears began to well up in Alice's eyes. That answered that. To my right, pressed against the wall of the reading room, was a squat bookcase, Sitting on top of it were a box of Kleenex and a crystal ball so big you could take it bowling. I passed the Kleenex to Alice. She dabbed at her eyes. It's so true. That's just the way things turned out. So much big talk in the beginning. And then what? I nodded sympathetically, although I felt bad for Mr. Alice. Here I was making him the bad guy, and I didn't even know his name. I decided to give the next card a happy spin, no matter what it was. Now we turn to the future. Oops. Alice was crying again before I could even speak. I knew it, she sobbed. There we were, starving in the snow. That's just a possible future, Alice. How things could turn out, like in... I was momentarily torn between A Christmas Carol and Back to the Future Part 2, but I couldn't assume that Alice had read the classics or, like me, watched ungodly amounts of hotel room HBO circa 1990. The writings of the great Rourke Villechaize Ricardo, I said instead. In the words of the master, yesterday was, now is, but tomorrow is only a maybe. Huh? Said Alice, which was disappointing. I thought it had sounded pretty good, considering how far I'd reached up my butt to get it. Let's move on to something more positive. I smiled even as my mind screamed. What comes next? Something about energy. Bettering energies to harness for personal empowerment or engooderment, I said, and here we get the Two of Wands. Here we get a dude eating a nasty looking grapefruit as he gazes out into the ocean from between two bean poles. Very helpful. Obviously, I lied. What we have here is a master of his domain. He's not a king, but he's powerful and proud. He's got the whole world in his hands, and he's looking to the horizon, facing the future with supreme confidence. This is who you need to be. Yes, you were so right. Alice sat up a little straighter in her chair and blew her nose into a firm, resolved sort of way. And finally, I said, negative energies. Energies to avoid. I turned over the last card. We'd be ending with an easy one. The same card had come up in my reading with Josette. The Eight of Swords. A woman blinded and trapped by her own misconceptions and limitations. I recycled what I could remember of Josette's shtick about swords, how they were all about smarts versus heart, and the need for action, etc., blah yada, then segued into the wrap-up. The cards are speaking to you clearly, Alice. They're saying that you have been passive for too long. Your life isn't what you'd like it to be, but you have the tools to change that. Start using them. Take control. No one's going to solve your money problems or fix your home life but you, and no one's stopping you but you. If you embrace your power today, tomorrow, and all the tomorrows after that are going to look a lot brighter. I didn't add that she should keep her feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars, but I could have. Alice didn't blink once through the whole spiel. Her fists were clenched, her jaw jutted out. She had the look football coaches want to see on their players at halftime. Yes, her ribs were bruised, her kneecaps were shattered, and she had a concussion. But damn it, she was there to play. And she bought it all. She could do anything. There's a reason Tony Robbins is a gazillionaire. Thank you, Alice said to me. My pleasure. Everything you said is so true. It's all in the cards. I don't have to be a martyr anymore. No, you don't. It's time to start asserting myself. That's the spirit. I'm as smart and capable as anyone. Exactly. And if Donald doesn't think llamas can turn the ranch around, well, that's too damn bad. Pause. Right, I said. The second I get home, I'm calling up the Llama and Alpaca Association and buying a whole damn herd. Wonderful. And when Donald gets home, I'm telling him, congratulations, dipshit, you're a llama breeder. Fantastic. And then I'm going to tell him if he doesn't stop boning Julia Luchetti, he's going to end up with a steak knife where his wiener used to be. Pause. 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 I eventually managed a feeble, "You go, girl." It seemed to make Alice happy. "I'm sorry about Athena," Alice said as I showed her out, "but I'm glad it's you who took her place. You're every bit as good as she was." "Thanks," I said, thinking, God, I hope not. I locked the front door. I hadn't turned on the neon sign in the window that morning, and I didn't turn it on now. I went back to the reading room and sat down. The Phoenix spread was still on the table. Completely by accident, I picked a fitting name for it. Pause in a second. Let me rearrange these a little bit better so that you, my viewers, can see the cards. My mother was dead, and who comes rising out of her ashes? Me. No thanks. I had a debt to repay. I owed my mother justice, but I wouldn't become her to get it. Not for real, not for keeps. Not if I could help it. I took stock of my progress. Lesson learned, number 1. Unless Alice Fisk is the Meryl Streep of Arizona, and she wasn't, she didn't kill my mother. Alice hadn't spent enough time with Athena to have been that screwed by her, so whatever homicidal rage she had in her was safely directed at her husband. I had successfully eliminated a suspect. One down, the rest of the state to go. Lesson learned number 2. I needed to work on my tarot patter. Improving interpretations hadn't been hard. The cards looked like the Lord of the Rings as illustrated by Salvador Dali. Most of them packed in enough kooky symbolism for a dozen Lady Gaga videos. It was kind of important to get the names right, though, and I wouldn't be able to get away with the bogus spreads like the Phoenix, not with my mother's regulars. If someone wanted a Celtic cross or a Trump tower or a rainbow reading or a reading rainbow or whatever have you, I had to lay it out without blinking. Lesson learned number 3. Donald Fisk was stooping Julia Luchetti, which wasn't useful in and of itself, but generally speaking it was helpful to hear. It was a reminder that Biddle had been right all along. People love to talk about themselves, and they wouldn't come into the White Magic 5 and dime if they didn't mean to do it. Alice had held out longer than most, I guess, but when she finally did open up, what was poured out along with the tears was pure gold. What if this Julia Luchetti had a husband? What if she had money? She'd find out, she'd keep one, but not the other. That's what. If my mother still had been around anyway. I knew what to look for next. He says, she says sometimes worked out okay, Biddle used to say, but just listen to what you said. Never fails. One glance around the room and I had it. I moved to the bookshelf I'd taken the Kleenex from a few minutes before. The crystal ball on top of it was smoky gray with a shiny black base. The thing was the size of a globe. The only other time I'd seen a crystal ball that big, the person using it had been cackling, "Fly, my pretties," to the dudes in monkey suits. I turned the ball around, and there was nothing on the back of the glass but dust. I noticed something in the base, though, a hole about half the size of a dime, just big enough for an electric cord to run through. I picked the ball up. It was surprisingly light, and I started messing with the bottom. After a little righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, I managed to unscrew the base. The crystal ball was hollow and empty, but it hadn't always been.